We're modernizing operations, she announced to the entire team, her eyes never quite meeting mine. Some positions are becoming redundant. My name is Lewis Thomas. For 21 years, I ran the automation systems at Peltron Manufacturing in Seattle, Washington. 21 years of calibrating machines, writing firmware, building systems nobody else understood. 21 years of making other people look good. The transition will be immediate, Mina continued, her voice carrying across our morning huddle. The factory floor hummed behind us, a sound I knew better than my own heartbeat. We've contracted with OmniCore Solutions for our systems management going forward. Lewis, your position has been eliminated. I stood there, arms crossed, as 74 faces turned toward me. Not necessarily with sympathy, but certainly with curiosity, wanting to see how the old guy would take it. I nodded once and went back to my station before Mina could start on the transition support bullshit. I began unplugging my laptop. My workstation was a museum of my life. The cracked leather chair I'd broken in over a decade of shifts. The faded postcard from Rachel and the kids stuck to the monitor. The chipped coffee mug Danny made me in 3rd grade. World's best dad in blue glaze, the A smudged where his little fingers had slipped. I took my spare reading glasses, and the notebook filled with handwritten code sequences no computer could replicate. The factory had changed management 3 times since I started. This was the first time they decided I wasn't necessary. No yelling, no arguing. I'd watched it happen to others over the years. Men who fought back and still ended up gone, just with less dignity. I wasn't going to give Mina the satisfaction. She approached as I was packing the last of my things into a cardboard box. Your severance package is generous, she said, sliding a folder across my desk. 3 months' salary plus accrued vacation. Generous? I repeated. The folder stayed where she placed it. Lewis, try to understand. Your systems are, well, they're outdated. OmniCore is implementing a complete digital transformation. Cloud-based monitoring, machine learning algorithms. It's where manufacturing is headed. I zipped my laptop bag slowly. The calibration files are all tagged. They'll reverse engineer whatever they need. A flicker of something crossed her face. Relief? She thought I was rolling over. That after 2 decades, I'd just walk away and let them rip the guts out of my life's work. She glanced at her watch. Human Resources needs to see you before you leave. I nodded and lifted my box. The weight of it surprised me, so little to show for half my adult life. Mina had been plant manager for 7 months. MBA from some prestigious university. Talked about efficiency metrics and optimization protocols like they were magic spells. Never once asked how our proprietary systems actually worked. Never questioned why our factory had the lowest defect rate in the industry despite running equipment that was over a decade old. I walked past the CNC machines I'd programmed, the conveyor system I'd customized, the quality control scanners with my custom algorithms. Mina was right about one thing. I had built outdated systems, but I had built them to last. And I had built them so only I could fix them when they broke. Not intentionally. It just turned out that way. The hum of the factory floor was my heartbeat. For 21 years, I'd lived by its rhythms. The whirring of servo motors, the hiss of pneumatic arms, the steady clank of the assembly line moving like a living thing. Peltron Manufacturing had been my second home longer than my kids had been alive. Then Mina Kapoor walked in with her PowerPoint slides and her MBA vocabulary, and in one morning meeting, she turned my life into a redundancy. We're modernizing operations, she announced, her eyes scanning the room but never quite landing on mine. Some of the newer guys straightened up, hopeful. The older hands, the ones who'd been here since Stephen Peltron still walked the floor, just looked at their boots. Some positions are being re-evaluated for the digital transformation. I knew what that meant before she said my name. Lewis Thomas, she finally said, like she was reading from a script. Your role in legacy systems maintenance has been identified as non-essential moving forward. Non-essential. After 21 years. After the nights I'd spent elbow-deep in machine guts, rewriting firmware to keep decade-old equipment running better than Omnicore's shiny new bots. After the 3 times I'd saved this damn place from missing shipment deadlines because I knew the machines like they were part of my own body. Walking out was the hardest part. Past the CNC machines I'd reprogrammed to sing Happy Birthday for Danny's 10th. Past the Southwest conveyor belt that used to jam every winter until I wrote the cold weather protocol. Past Alan, who met my eyes for half a second before looking away. The parking lot was bright with June sun. I loaded the box into my truck carefully, the mug wrapped in my jacket. Then I sat there, keys in hand, and realized I had no idea where to go. Rachel was at her clinic until 6. My son Danny had soccer practice. My daughter Emma was studying for finals. The whole world kept moving while mine had just stopped. My phone buzzed, a calendar alert I'd set months ago. Southwest conveyor firmware update due. I smiled for the first time all morning. I had built outdated systems, and I'd built them to last. And I'd built them so that when they broke, and they would break, only I could fix them. I started the truck. The factory shrank in my rearview mirror, but the weight in my chest wasn't sadness. It was patience. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. The first week felt like a vacation. I slept until 7 instead of 5. Drank my coffee on the back porch while the neighborhood rushed off to work. Took the boat out on Lake Washington and fished until my hands smelled like bass and gasoline. Rachel left post-it notes on the coffee pot. You deserve this break, and love you, in her neat doctor's handwriting. But I caught her watching me sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking. That clinical gaze she used on patients trying to downplay their symptoms. By week 2, the silence started humming louder than Peltron's assembly line ever had. Emma found me rewiring the garage lights at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Can't sleep? She leaned against the doorframe, her college sweatshirt swallowing her whole. Just being productive, I said, stripping copper with my teeth the way my dad taught me. She raised one eyebrow. Rachel's move exactly. Mom says you haven't touched your severance check. The wire nipped my thumb. It's in the desk. You should cash it. By something stupid. She nudged a tackle box with her toe. Like a better fishing rod. I pretended to consider it. Maybe a bass boat. Now you're talking. She grinned, but it faded fast. Dad, are you okay? The question hung between us like a misaligned gear. My daughter, who'd never seen me without a job since the day she was born. I'm fine, Bug. I flicked her nose like when she was little. Just figuring out what's next. What I didn't say, that every morning I woke up reaching for work boots I didn't need anymore. That I'd caught myself driving toward Peltron twice before remembering. That 3 times now I'd picked up my phone to call maintenance about the damn Southwest conveyor belt before realizing it wasn't my problem. Danny handled it differently. Came home from UW for the weekend and challenged me to a Mortal Kombat marathon like he was 12 again. Let me win 2 out of 3. Didn't ask about Peltron once until Sunday night, when he loaded the dishwasher wrong on purpose, so I'd have something to correct. You'll land somewhere better, he said, handing me a chipped plate. They were idiots to let you go. I rearranged the bowls so they'd actually get clean. Language. Assholes, he amended, grinning when I snorted. The severance check stayed in the desk. Week 3, I updated my resume for the first time in a decade. The dates looked wrong, 1999 to 2020, like a tombstone engraving. LinkedIn messages piled up from guys I'd trained years ago, now at Boeing or Tesla. Heard what happened. Let me know if you want a referral. I answered none of them. Instead, I took the boat out further, trolling motor purring as I cast toward the lily pads. The rhythm of it, cast, reel, repeat. Let my brain slip into that same focused blankness as calibrating a CNC machine. That's where I was when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Not a job offer, not a recruiter. Alan. SW line down again. Omnicore guys have been here 8 hours. Mina's pretending it's fine, but we're losing $20,000 per hour. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. The Southwest conveyor. The one that needed its firmware updated before summer humidity swelled the belts. The one I'd flagged in maintenance logs 3 months straight. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. The old instinct roared up. Give the fix, save the line, be the hero. I slipped the phone back in my pocket. The fish weren't biting anyway. At home, Rachel had wine waiting. Alan called the clinic, she said, handing me a glass. I took a slow sip. He shouldn't have. He's worried. She studied me over her glass. They're really struggling, huh? I thought about the last digital transformation I'd seen. A Chicago plant that replaced their lead engineer with some Silicon Valley startup's black box. Lasted 6 months before the whole line got scrapped. They will be, I said. That night, I dreamt in error codes. Flashing red lights spelling out warnings nobody could read. When I checked my phone at 3 a.m., there were 3 more texts from Alan. QC just scrapped an entire Airbus batch. Mina told corporate it's transition pains. They're gonna call you. The last message had come through at 2:47 a.m. Alan's shift didn't end until 7. I put the phone face down, rolled over, closed my eyes, and waited. The call came on a Thursday morning, exactly 42 days after they'd walked me out. I was elbow deep in the lawnmower's carburetor when my phone buzzed across the workbench. Peltron Manufacturing flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Lewis Thomas. Lewis. Mina's voice had lost its boardroom polish. We're experiencing some difficulties with the Southwest conveyor line. I wiped grease off my hands with a rag. What kind of difficulties? A pause. Paper shuffling. Random stoppages. Error codes that don't match any documentation. We've lost nearly a full shift of production. I closed my eyes and saw the machine clear as day. The Allen Bradley controller, the servo motors I'd retrofitted 3 years ago, the firmware version that needed updating before summer humidity set in. An Omnicore? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. They're still familiarizing themselves with some of our legacy systems. The mower parts lay scattered like bones on the bench. I picked up a gasket, turned it over in my fingers. What exactly are you asking, Mina? Her exhale crackled through the phone. Would you be available to consult? Just to look at the Southwest line. I watched a sparrow land on the fence outside the garage. My consulting rate is $350 an hour. 4-hour minimum. Paid up front via wire transfer before I walk through the door. Silence. Then a choked noise that might have been a cough or a laugh. That's more than you made as salary. It's what I'm worth now. Rachel found me 30 minutes later, showered and shaved for the first time in days, buttoning a clean shirt. They called, I said. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You're going. I tucked my laptop under my arm. I'm getting paid. The wire hit my account at 11:17 a.m. By 11:45, I was signing in at Peltron's security desk as a vendor. The factory smelled the same, oil and ozone and burnt coffee. But the rhythm was off. Machines stuttered where they should have purred. The usual banter between operators had been replaced by tense silence. Alan met me at the Southwest line. Dark circles under his eyes, his hair more gray than I remembered. Took you long enough. I set my toolbox down. Took them long enough to call. The conveyor was dead, a half-assembled aircraft part stranded mid-track. 3 Omnicore techs hovered nearby, their brand-new diagnostic tablets dark. Mina appeared in her pristine white blouse. We appreciate you coming on such short notice. I ignored her, crouching beside the control panel. The access log told the whole story, 6 failed firmware updates, each one bricking the system further. Problems in the motor controller, I said, unspooling my console cable. Same one I flagged in April. Mina's heels clicked closer. Can you fix it? I plugged into the maintenance port and pulled up my old diagnostic tools. 27 minutes. It actually took 26. A firmware rollback, 2 parameter tweaks, and 1 hard reset. The conveyor jerked to life with a satisfying hum. Operators cheered. Mina exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Thank God. Her smile faltered. The system's still unstable, though. The CNC machines in Bay 3 are. Not my problem. I snapped my laptop shut. You hired me for one line. It's fixed. If you want me to take a handle any other challenge, that will be a fresh contract." Mina was in shock. Alan followed me out, waiting until we were past security to grab my arm. "You could have walked them through the rest." I loaded my toolbox into the truck. "Could have. You're letting them fail on purpose." The midday sun baked the asphalt. Somewhere behind us, the factory kept running on my patchwork fix. I turned to Alan with a smile I hadn't felt in months. "They made their choice." His hand fell away. "Christ, Lewis. It's not just Mina's ass on the line. It's everyone's." I opened the driver's door. The cab smelled like old fishing gear and coffee. Then maybe they should have thought about that before they decided 21 years of knowledge was disposable. The engine roared to life. In my rearview mirror, Alan stood watching, his shadow stretching long across the parking lot. I didn't look back again. At home, Rachel had dinner waiting, steak my favorite. "How'd it go?" she asked, pouring wine. I slid the receipt across the table. $1,400 for 26 minutes work. Her eyebrows climbed. "They actually paid?" "They will again." I cut into the steak. "Next time, it'll cost them more." That night, I lay awake watching the ceiling fan turn. The call would come again. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week. But it would come. And next time, I wouldn't just fix their machines. I'd make sure they never forgot why they needed me. The second call came 9 days later. I was cleaning rainbow trout at the kitchen sink when Mina's number flashed on my phone. Blood and scales streaked across the screen as I answered on speaker. "Bay 3 CNC machines," she said without preamble. Her voice had that frayed wire tension of someone who hadn't slept. Tolerances drifting on the Airbus brackets. I scraped the knife along the fish's spine. "My rate's now $400 an hour. 8-hour minimum." A choked silence. Then, "That's outrageous." The blade slipped, nicking my thumb. I watched a bead of blood well up and mix with the fish guts. "You're right. You should call Omnicore." The line went dead for 3 seconds before she came back, voice tight. "Wire transfer instructions." By the time I arrived, the defect reports were piling up like bad debts. 2 entire batches of aircraft components scrapped. A third shipment recalled mid-transit. The smell of burnt metal hung thick in Bay 3. It took me 4 hours to recalibrate the CNC machines. Another 2 to rewrite the quality control algorithms Omnicore had optimized into uselessness. Mina hovered the whole time, her tablet clutched like a life preserver. "You'll need to replace the servo motors on machine 12 by November," I said, wiping grease off my hands. "They're vibrating outside spec." She didn't write it down. The calls became a rhythm over the next 3 weeks. Monday, the paint robot's misfiring, 3,200. Thursday, the thermal sensors giving false readings, 3,200. Thursday, the thermal sensors giving false readings, 4,800. The following Tuesday, the entire assembly line freezing during a critical Boeing order. 6,400 plus a 2,000 emergency surcharge. Each time, my rate climbed higher. Each time, Mina's voice grew more desperate. Rachel tracked the deposits in our shared spreadsheet with dark amusement. "At this rate, you'll make more this month than your old salary." I closed the laptop. They're not paying for my time. They're paying for their mistakes. The reckoning came on a rainy Wednesday in July. I was knee-deep in the Chevy's transmission when an unknown number rang. "Lewis Thomas." "Mr. Thomas, this is Kane Anderson." The voice carried the polished steel of an executive who'd fired people over golf games. "VP of Operations at Triton Logistics. We need to talk about Peltron." I wiped my hands slowly. Triton, Peltron's corporate overlords. The money behind Mina's digital transformation. "I'm listening." "Not over the phone." A pause. "Our corporate jet can be in Seattle by 5 p.m. The transmission fluid smelled like burned money. I watched rain slide down the garage windows. I charge $1,000 an hour for off-site consultations. 4-hour minimum. A longer pause. Then, through gritted teeth, "We'll send a car." Triton's Seattle offices were all glass and exposed steel, the kind of place where people said disrupt without irony. Kane Anderson looked like he'd been carved from the same materials, mid-50s, silver temples, a watch worth more than my truck. He dispensed with pleasantries. "Our defect rate has quadrupled. We've lost 2 aerospace contracts." Omnicore claims your systems are unfit for modernization. I sipped the coffee they'd given me. Bitter over roasted. And we need this fixed. He slid a contract across the table. 6-month consulting engagement. Triple your former salary. The numbers were impressive. The terms less so, non-compete clauses, knowledge transfer requirements, all the legal traps designed to leash me back into obedience. I pushed it back. Before we discuss solutions, you should know why this happened. Anderson's jaw tightened. We're aware Ms. Kapoor underestimated the transition challenges. No. I opened my laptop and turned it around. She got paid to destroy my department. The screen showed bank records. Mina's consulting fees from Omnicore, deposited the same week she'd terminated me. $15,000 here. $20,000 there. All neatly documented in emails she'd foolishly sent from her corporate account. Anderson's face went very still. I closed the laptop. I'll fix your plant. But not as an employee. Not with Omnicore's hands in my systems. The rain intensified outside, hammering the windows. Somewhere below us, the city lights blurred into golden streaks. Name your terms, Anderson said quietly. I named a number that should have made him laugh. He didn't. When the car dropped me home, Rachel was waiting up, her medical journals forgotten on the couch. Well, I set the unsigned contract on the coffee table. They'll call back tomorrow. With better terms? I looked out at the dark yard, the rain-slicked deck where Danny's graduation party had been just 2 months ago. Back when I still believed loyalty meant something. No, I said. With the right ones. Upstairs, Emma's light was still on. I paused outside her door, hearing the clack of keyboard keys. Studying, probably. Or messaging friends about her crazy father holding corporations hostage. I powered off my phone and left it on the dresser. The calls would keep coming. The numbers would keep growing. But for the first time in months, I slept through the night. The conference room smelled of stale coffee and corporate anxiety. I sat across from Kane Anderson, Triton Logistics VP of Operations, watching him massage his temple as if trying to physically push out the past month's disasters. His tailored suit couldn't disguise the exhaustion in his posture. We need you back full-time, he said, sliding a contract across the polished table. 6 months minimum. Triple your previous salary. I let the document sit untouched, watching the condensation from my water glass form rings on the wood. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Seattle skyline glittered indifferently. Generous offer, I said. But no. Anderson's jaw tightened. This isn't a negotiation, Thomas. The plant is hemorrhaging money. Exactly why you need more than temporary help. I reached into my bag and set my laptop on the table. What you need is Peltec. The screen came alive with schematics and dashboards, my new factory management system. Real-time equipment monitoring, predictive maintenance alerts, quality control analytics. All wrapped in a sleek interface that made complex data look simple. Anderson leaned forward despite himself. What is this? Your solution. Licensed to Triton at $450,000 annually. With me as external consultant at triple my old rate, 2 days a week on site. His polished fingernail tapped the table. That's a whole lot less than the $3.4 million you've lost in the past quarter. I pulled up the financials. And that's just the quantifiable losses. Not the reputation damage with Boeing and Airbus. A muscle twitched in Anderson's cheek. You've been planning this. I met his gaze evenly. I built systems to last 20 years. Did you really think I wouldn't build something for myself? The silence stretched. Somewhere in the building, an elevator dinged. Omnicore, he finally asked. Gone by Friday. And Kapoor? I closed the laptop. That's your decision. It took Anderson 47 minutes to return with the signed agreement. Every initial and clause exactly as I'd drafted it. No non-compete. No knowledge transfer requirements. Just pure, expensive necessity. Mina was clearing her desk when I arrived at Peltron the next morning. 2 security guards hovered nearby as she boxed up her framed MBA and motivational business books. She looked up as I paused in her doorway. Satisfied, I considered the woman who'd tried to erase 2 decades of my life. The kickbacks from Omnicore. The arrogance. The sheer waste of it all. No, I said honestly. But I will be when the plant's running properly again. The rebuild took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of crawling through machine guts, rewriting corrupted firmware, and carefully documenting just enough, but never everything. Peltec became the factory's new nervous system, its elegant dashboards belying the proprietary code only I fully understood. Alan joined me on day 3, standing awkwardly in my temporary office. Heard you're building an empire. I slid a contract across the desk. Need a shop floor manager for Thomas Industrial Systems. Someone who knows these machines better than anyone. He scanned the salary line and whistled. This is more than Peltron ever paid me. It's what you're worth. I nodded toward the floor below us where operators struggled with Omnicore's abandoned upgrades. And I need someone who can keep this place running between my visits. Alan signed with a flourish. To never being disposable again. By month's end, the factory hummed with its old rhythm. Defect rates dropped to record lows. The aerospace contracts trickled back. And every morning, Peltec's login screen greeted workers with the Thomas Industrial Systems logo, a constant reminder of where the real knowledge lived. Anderson toured the facility with a group of Triton executives in week 6. He paused before a bank of CNC machines running smoother than they had in years. It's remarkable, he admitted grudgingly. But what happens when something breaks at 2 a.m.? I pulled up the Peltec interface and tapped the emergency support button. My company's 24/7 hotline appeared, rates clearly listed. Someone will answer, I said with a smile. At triple the daytime rate. As the executives moved on, Alan fell into step beside me. You're enjoying this too much. I watched Anderson flinch at the Peltec watermark on another diagnostic screen. No, I corrected. I'm being valued exactly enough. That night, I sat in my newly leased office space overlooking the ship canal. The signed contracts spread across the desk. Rachel had hung a framed photo of the kids on the wall, Emma's college graduation, Danny holding up his first engineering internship offer. My phone buzzed with the first Peltec license payment alert. Then another. Then a third, Triton's Portland plant requesting a consultation. Outside, the cranes along the waterfront turned their iron necks toward the sea. Ships came and went. The city pulsed with its endless cycles of reinvention. For the first time in 21 years, I wasn't afraid of being left behind. Because this time I'd built the system. And the system needed me. The morning of the ribbon cutting smelled like fresh paint and possibility. I stood in the lobby of my new downtown Seattle office, adjusting the Thomas Industrial Systems plaque for the 10th time. The space gleamed, exposed brick walls lined with schematics, workstations humming with prototypes, and floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Olympic mountains. Rachel appeared at my elbow, her perfume cutting through the new carpet smell. Stop fidgeting. It's perfect. She straightened my tie, the blue one Emma had picked out, and brushed invisible lint from my shoulders. Behind her, Danny was explaining something to his sister while gesturing at the Peltec display screen, his hands moving with the same restless energy mine used to when talking shop. Lloyd just texted, Rachel said. He's parking now. A flutter moved through my chest. Lloyd Peltron hadn't set foot in one of his namesake plants since selling to Triton 5 years ago. That he'd come today, that he'd cared enough to drive up from his San Juan Islands retirement. The elevator dinged. Lloyd emerged exactly as I remembered, thick white hair, shoulders still square at 73, his flannel shirt clashing gloriously with the building's modern aesthetic. His gaze swept across the office, the equipment, the framed article from Manufacturing Today hanging near reception. How one engineer's revenge saved American manufacturing. Then those sharp blue eyes landed on me. Well, Lewis, you built yourself a damn cathedral. The ribbon-cutting scissors felt foreign in my hands, too light compared to the wrenches and circuit boards I was used to. Reporters milled about snapping photos while my team of 12 engineers hovered near the champagne table. Speech, someone called from the back. I cleared my throat, suddenly aware of every face watching. Rachel's quiet pride, Danny's grin, Emma recording on her phone, Lloyd's approving nod, Alan pretending not to wipe his eyes. A year ago, someone decided 21 years of knowledge was disposable. I lifted my glass. Turns out, the only thing that was truly disposable was the idea that experience could be replaced by a PowerPoint slide. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Lloyd's chuckle rose above it all. After the cameras left and the champagne ran dry, Lloyd lingered by the window overlooking the waterfront. You saved more than that plant, you know. He tapped the glass toward the distant factory district. You saved the soul of real manufacturing, the kind that values craft over buzzwords. I followed his gaze to the cargo ships moving across Elliott Bay. Just gave them the tools to see what they were destroying. Lloyd snorted. Bullshit. You showed them the cost of forgetting where real value lives. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Which is why I want you to consult on my new project. Inside were schematics for a next-generation manufacturing campus. Lloyd's handwriting scrawled across one margin. Let's build something that lasts. The office emptied slowly, employees heading home, family departing for celebratory dinners. I stayed behind, walking the quiet halls of what used to be just a revenge fantasy. At my desk, the monitors glowed with incoming requests. Peltron's Chicago plant asking for a Peltec install, a German automaker inquiring about custom solutions, Triton begging for more consulting hours. I powered them all down. Outside, the city lights shimmered on the water. Somewhere beneath those waves lay the remnants of old shipyards and steel mills, the bones of industries that had risen, fallen, and been reborn. My phone buzzed. Alan's name flashed with a photo from the factory floor. All green lights on the Peltec dash, production humming along perfectly. The caption read, "Still runs better without the suits." I smiled and pocketed the phone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building something they never thought you could. That's my story. Some of you will call me ruthless. Some will say a real man would have fought in the trenches, would have screamed and raged when they took everything he'd built. You're entitled to that opinion. Just like you're entitled to stand in a parking lot holding a cardboard box of your life's work. To watch colleagues avert their eyes as security walks you out. To realize the company you bled for saw you as a line item, not a person. I didn't burn Peltron to the ground. But I made damn sure they learned the cost of throwing away a man who spoke machine better than English. For more stories about power, revenge, and turning the tables, subscribe to our channel. The system's rigged, but we're teaching people how to rig it back.